about how to use the text tool. So you don't have to create a new layer for text, because when you click on the text tool, it's going to automatically create a new layer. You're going to click the text tool, and then you're going to drag a text box onto your work. Now, you select the text color differently than you select the regular color. The text color is going to be up here in the options menu. And for this, let's say that I want to use kind of a light blue color. And then you're just going to start typing. Now, if I want to make changes to the text, I'm going to go back and I'm going to select it. I could change the size right here, make it bigger. I can also change the alignment, left, centered, and right aligned. Let's go ahead and leave it centered. And over here, I can change my typeface. All right, and let's go ahead and make that bigger. You can also type in the size that you want it. 1000 is too big. Let's do it at 100, and then I'm going to click the check mark to commit the current edits. All right, now I can also take the move tool and move the text where I want it to move. After I am no longer in the text dialog, I can come back here and click back on the text tool and bring my cursor to where it's now showing this. I don't know what this is called, but when it changes from the text tool that allows me to draw a new text box and to this, I can click there and I'm going to get back into my text layer. I have to be selected on that layer for it to work. So I want to reselect my text. This is an important dialog box to bring up. It's the character and paragraph panels. Here I can adjust my the space between my letters as well as the distance between lines. So before I do that, let's go ahead and make it where we have 2 lines. I'm going to come back and select all my text, get back into this character paragraph dialog box, and let's say that I want to increase the space between my letters. I'm going to come right here, maybe I'm going to change it to 10 points. That is going to increase the distance between my individual letters. Notice as I type in higher numbers, I'm getting more space between my letters. Now, if I want it, I can also use negative numbers to bring my letters closer together. And a lot of times if you're designing something, you don't want to use the default spacing between letters. You want to customize the spacing between the letters. And sometimes you're going to select all of your text to do it, or sometimes you may just have a couple of letters that you feel like you need to change the distance between. So let's pick a different typeface. And let's just say that in this case, I feel like the T and the H are close enough together and the I and the S are close enough together. But I feel like there's too large of a gap between the H and the I. So I'm going to select those 2 letters. And it's already got a kerning of -5. So I'm going to go -10. Bring them closer together. I might even go closer than that. -15. I'm going to commit those changes. So now my I and my H are closer together than they were before. But I haven't adjusted the kerning or the space between the individual letters on any of the other text. We could also adjust the distance between lines. Right now it's set on auto. And typically, if you look here, my size is 100 points. typically you want your distance between lines as far as points go to match the distance or the size of your font. So if I go down to 72, it should bring the lines closer together because this is a 100-point font and I've set it at the distance between lines when the font is size 72. And you can see that if I change this back to 72, the distance between the lines will look natural. Let's bring it back up to 100. Let's say I want to bring the lines closer together, but not that close. I'm going to try something slightly less than 100. Try it at 90, or maybe 95. And this looks a little bit more natural. So that's how you adjust the spacing between the lines and between the individual letters. It's through this dialog box right here. And then here you can adjust the font size and even the style right here. So we have regular mode, but we can make it bold, or we can make it bold italic. We can change the typeface as well. And you can see here that it went back to regular and that this box is grayed out because for this particular typeface it doesn't have other versions. It doesn't have a bold or an italic version. Your different typefaces will have different style options. Not all of them will have all of the style options. So that's how you use text. Now I want to show you something else that kind of goes back to a previous thing that we discussed about layer blending modes. And I'm going to create a new layer above the background. And I want to make a gray background behind it, or behind the text. I'm going to use the gradient tool, and I'm going to use the gradient tool to create a gray background that fades from dark gray to light gray behind the text. Then I'm going to click on the text layer, and I'm going to try some different gradient modes. This is darken, lighten, color dodge, overlay, the luminosity color mode is not going to include any of the color information from the layer. It's only going to include brightness information. So it's going to make everything underneath it the same brightness as this text layer, but it's not going to make it blue. It's just affecting the brightness of it. And like I said before, there are a lot of different blending modes and options, and the best way to learn them and how they're going to affect the layers underneath them is to just experiment with it. But you can make the text a lot more interesting than just leaving it in normal mode.